So yeah, just so as I said that you cannot bring up with any frivolous problems. And then again, another very important thing is researchers' interest and competency. If sometimes we take up dissertation topics without having any interest in the subject matter. It so happens here that many students come to us and they just say, "Okay, ma'am, we have taken corporate law. Please, talk about some topic that we can go ahead with our dissertation." But that shouldn't be the case, because the interest area is very important. So basically, I always test my students that you have to have an interest area. So say in corporate law, we have different fields. Say someone is doing on insider trading, one wants to do on CSR, one wants to go for independent directors. So say the corporate merger and acquisition. So you have to first take up a interest area of yours, and then only you can write a topic. Otherwise, of course, you can write on any topic and there is no bar. But until and unless you have that competency or say the interest. Now, say
Hello.
suppose I yes.
Hello. Sort of.
I'm not sure if any of you want have any question. Do we have any question from the participants? I will request the moderator to please see if anybody has any question, or I should continue.
Let me check.
Yes.
There's no questions till now in the chat box.
Okay, I will continue. Please mute your mics, because this creates a lot of problem. Suppose I am losing my flow, and that will be only detrimental to you if you are actually keen on understanding what is the total research design that we are talking about. So anyways, suppose today anybody from the economics department, asks me to devise, say, a research problem, and they say, "Can Anwesha, let us work on so and so thing." So it is not my competency, to work on, say, an other area, which is maybe a very different area, and I don't have any expertise. So I will land up into a pool of trouble in that case. So yes, in India, today's date, or when we have the new education policy, we know that we are focusing on multidisciplinary research, but that is different. That is where we collaborate with other departments and work on your expertise. So that is a very what should I say, healthy practice. And in this way, you can write on various topics and make an interesting research paper. But again, your skill, your competency needs to be identified when we are talking about a research problem, and say your interest as well. Then defining a research problems. Come, I'll skip the steps. I think all of you are already aware about how you define a particular research problem. As I already said, the who, why, how, when, where, and what has to be there. A clear statement of the problem is very important. Okay, then we come to the meaning of research design, because already we have talked about the problem, and we know that a research design is the blueprint of the entire research. So when we come to the meaning, we have to understand that it is a controlling plan for a research study in which the methods and procedures for collecting and analyzing information is to be collected is specified. As I said, whenever I'm talking about a research problem, what kind of data, what and how to go ahead with my research, everything has to be, collected and analyzed. That is very important in a research design. So it is a framework or plan for study that guides the collection and analysis of data. I think it is already well understood. There is a guideline for collecting and utilizing data so that the desired information can be obtained with sufficient precision and hypothesis can be tested properly. I hope you're all aware what a hypothesis is, or say what a research question is. And I think the other classes or the other mentors have already gone through these ideas. So I'll not be focusing. If anybody needs, this research question or hypothesis to be addressed, please write in the comments box so that I can, check with the questions later. So in short, we can say that a research design is a plan of what data has to be gathered, So what topic I am taking, what data has to be gathered, किससे gather करना है, from whom, how, and when to collect the data, and how to analyze the data obtained. You are aware that there are sister like softwares like SPSS, and there are softwares like Excel where you collect data and compute, like put the data, and then you can do computation and you come up with the results. So this is how you analyze the entire data after collection. Now, you will ask me, ma'am, what is the need for this research design? Now, as I said, if you do not have a research design, my dear, you will not be able to go ahead with your, research properly, because until and unless you have a design in mind, you have a blueprint in mind, you cannot, quantify a question, you cannot resolve the particular issue. You say the collection and recording of information and evidence cannot be done, or say the processing and analysis of this data, whatever data you have collected, that has to be analyzed in order to give a possible result. So all these things are very much required, and that is where the need for research design comes in. So, features of a good research design. So as I already stated in the first, like if you all have joined during the first session, like the first time we were talking about, so I said that there should be freedom from bias. There should be no bias. Like as an I'm a researcher, I might have say when we talk about same-sex marriage. So in today's society, you will find a particular group supports the idea. You will find the other group not supporting to the idea. So, as a researcher, you have to be very neutral. You have to collect the data and support whatever the data is showing. You might be only reviewing the literature, that is your doctrinal method that you'll be opting. Or say you might be going for a survey, you might be going for say interviews, either in questionnaire or in the interview schedule form. So in that case, you need to be free from bias, because being a researcher, you can never have a biased idea, and your data should be free from any kind of systematic errors. I don't know how many of you have used softwares like SPSS. So you will, if anybody have used till now, you will be knowing that sometimes we give the data, or you put the data in the system, and sometimes you get errors stating that this particular data, even if the question is right, the variable you put is right, the quantifying numbers is right, but still the result says that this particular question has a systematic error, and the entire result is like a zero, a total zero. So you have to always see that everything you put is quantified in the particular form and is right whenever you're putting. So free from bias in every way possible is very, very important. Then statistical precision for testing hypothesis. As I said, a research design should ensure that the data are recorded at the level of precision. As I said, I just give you an example on SPSS system software. So whenever you're not giving or putting the data in the correct format, or you don't have the precision, you will be coming out with errors, because say sometimes it so happens that researchers are also human beings. Suppose we sit for a research paper, say for 8 hours for a day, like, and I'm inputting the data. So I become stagnant, I become drained out, and there are chances of having errors there, and the entire result is jeopardized. So you have to be very like the precision has to be there. You can take breaks, but precision is very important, because hypothesis is being tested on those data. So the resources, again, if you are having a particular time, the money, the staff, you should look into the fact that it is being covered in that time. I'll give you an example. Like whenever we write research projects, we write proposals, sorry, we write research proposals for getting projects. Say it is being ICSSR funded, or say NCW funded, or whatever funding agency they fund those projects with. We write, this much time is required. Say for this problem, we say 1 year time is required. This much fund is required. 2 field investigators is required. So this is very important how you put it, and that has to be covered within those resources. You have to plan your research design in such way that all this that inputs you're giving कि इतना पैसा है, इतना टाइम है, इतना आदमी है मेरा, तो उसमें ही आपका रिसर्च डिजाइन इस तरह से आप डेवलप कीजिए कि ये 3 चीजें usko satisfy kare. That suffices these three things. So, and then objectivity in the first slide, I also told you that objectivity is very much required. If operated then by more than one researcher, a good research design obtains the same result. So objectivity यही होता है. Say when um, so suppose I was doing this work. Suppose say today I am ill and my fellow colleague takes over the work. I have already say given a particular result for my research problem. Whenever he or she takes over the work, whenever he or she also inputs the same data, so he or she will also have the same results. So that is called objectivity. That even if your research is done by someone else, the same results keep on repeating. So these are the features of a good research design. Now, let me talk about the different research designs that we have. One we have is exploratory or formulative studies. We have descriptive studies, we have diagnostic studies, and we have experimental studies. So when we talk about exploratory, now I'll give you very practical examples because being in this research field for say, even though I'm a very budding researcher till now, but some amount of research experience I have by now. So being in this field for about more than 3 years, I would say. Exploratory means the word meaning is explore. That means you discover something, you explore whatever documents you have, and you discover something. So sometimes I have seen students, writing in their research objectives to explore the to explore the particular international instruments that are there for in the so and so area. So that is very wrong. Explore, you cannot explore the given research, like say research, I would say international, documents, because international documents are already present. You can analyze them, not explore. But many people, confuse with this word, because exploratory research is, you devise new knowledge by exploring it. So please keep in mind this particular thing. So exploratory design is conducted about a research problem when there are few or no earlier studies. Well, as I said, my problem that I have taken, suppose the gender diversity in corporate boards, there are few studies in management. There are hardly any studies, like studies in the sense of PhD thesis in law. So either you have very few research studies or no earlier studies. To like in this case, you use this exploratory method. The focus in this kind of research is on gaining insights and familiarity for later investigation. So you have to investigate a problem, and you want to gain like your focus is to gain new insights, and you want to get familiar with this problem. So that is when you use such method. And exploratory designs are often used to establish the understanding of how best to proceed in studying an issue, or what methodology would be effectively applied to gathering information about the um, about the issue. So it's a new issue basically, and you want to study more or explore more on that research area. So the goals of exploratory research are intends to produce the following possible insights. So say, as I said, familiarity with basic details, setting and concerns, well-grounded picture of the situation being developed, generation of new ideas and assumption, development of tentative theories or hypothesis, determination about whether a study is feasible in the future. This is also very important, because sometimes in our research papers also we write basically future goals of this research, or say future of the study. So this is how we define it. Issues get refined for more systematic investigation and formulation of new research questions, and direction for future research and techniques gets developed, as I already say. So exploratory research brings about new knowledge. And what do these studies tell you? Exploratory kind of studies. So this kind of design is a useful approach for gaining background information on a particular topic. Exploratory research is flexible and can address research questions: what, why, and how. If you remember when we were discussing on what, where, when, all these things. So what, why, and how is what is being discussed, in exploratory research. It provides an opportunity to define new terms and clarify existing concepts. Now, new terms we bring, while, in exploratory research, we come about with new ideas, and then we can define those, saying that this is a new definition of so and so term. So in exploratory research, that happens, and exploratory research is often used to generate formal hypotheses and develop more precise research problems. So this is how we go about with it. Now, what these studies don't tell you. So, what kind of studies, like they do not cater to. So, exploratory research generally utilizes small sample sizes, and thus findings are typically not generalizable to the population at large. So, I also talked about the idea of generalizing a particular thing. That is the scope of a good research design. But here in this case, क्योंकि small sample size hota hai, and so the study cannot be generalized. The exploratory nature of the research inhibits an ability to make definitive conclusions about the findings. They provide insight but not definitive conclusions. इस केस में definitive conclusion नहीं होता है क्योंकि inhibit करता है. It stops giving you a new definitive conclusion because the existing research knowledge or the sample size is quite less. And the research processes underpinning exploratory study is flexible but often unstructured, leading to only tentative results. It will not give you conclusive results, as we have already talked about here, not definitive conclusion. We have already talked about here. So it will only give you tentative results that this might happen and that have limited value to decision makers. So these are the problems, whenever we're talking about exploratory research design. We will come to descriptive studies now. Descriptive research design, basically it caters to, say, it describes the problem as how it is. It is not going to give you the answer to why this has happened. It will only it will only provide answers to the questions of who, what, when, where, and how. It will just describe the situation. It will just say you have two variables. It will just describe the working of the variables. It will never say why, this happened or that happened. So descriptive research is used to obtain information concerning the current status of the phenomena. So what is happening now? So that will only be discussed, and to describe what exists with respect to variables or conditions in a situation. Now, what do the studies tell you whenever we are talking about descriptive? The subject is being observed in a completely natural and unchanged natural environment. So basically, they are observed like in their normal setting. So descriptive research is often used as a precursor to more quantitative research design. Mind you, precursors. So it is not a scientific method. It will only describe the thing as it is. And if the limitations are understood, they can be useful tool in developing a more focused studies. So descriptive studies can yield rich data that leads to important recommendation in practice. So suppose say whenever I'm describing a problem, I will take into account a lot of literature surveys, and how it will help me. So in the future, when I'm going to address to my research questions, the study that we did, the descriptive study that we did, like we took into account all the research papers, what the authors have been stating on that particular problem. That is the rich data already I have collected through this particular design, and then I will be using them to answer my research questions further. And approach collects a large amount of data for detailed analysis, the thing that I've been talking about. Now, what the studies don't tell you, now the results from a descriptive research cannot be used to discover a definitive answer or to disprove a hypothesis. As I already stated, that it will only be describing the situation. It will not be helping you to answer, like it will only give you a rich knowledge of what is the current situation all about. So you cannot answer a research question, or say you cannot answer a definitive hypothesis here, because the why thing is not here. Now, because descriptive designs often utilize observational method, so the results cannot be replicated because here only you're observing. And suppose say I am observing a situation in 2013. Okay, I'll give you a better example. Suppose say I am observing a particular situation in 1956 when the Companies Act, the old Companies Act 1956 was there. Now, with the passing of the new Companies Act in 2013, the situation changes. So descriptive studies will tell you, suppose say XYZ was a problem. So XYZ in 1956 was this, XYZ in 2013 was this, and XYZ in 2017 was this. So you cannot replicate the result say in 2022, because in these three situations you have only described the thing. You cannot replicate the result. Say you can only say that happened in 1956, so such and such happened in 2013, and such happened in say 2017. In 2023 cannot bring the result because you were only describing the thing. I hope I'm making it clear to the audience. The descriptive function of research is heavily dependent on instrumentation for measurement and observation, because you have to observe the entire thing, and hence it is totally dependent on that. Now we come to experimental studies. So basically experimental studies are mostly concerned with the legal, not the non-legal field, like say the scientific field. In legal field also we find experimental studies, when we are say talking about the implications of different legislations. But the study is done like, mostly we engage in say descriptive studies or say exploratory studies in that case. But again, in experimental studies, it is a blueprint of the procedure that enables the researcher to maintain control over all the factors which may affect the result of an experiment. So, what do we mean by control over all factors? So, I hope you have some point of your time in life have visited science like labs. So, you must have seen those those particular what should I say, the gas or the liquids kept in glass containers, and the particular scientist uses it to the amount that has been stated or that he or she needs. So in that way he or she is controlling the factors. But in case of social science research, you can never control the factors. Yes, you can do group discussion, you can try to control, but you cannot entirely monitor the particular period. In the social science research, it is a myth to do an experimental study. But again, in certain cases, if you can control the variables that you have in hand, you can, of course, see the cause and effect of those studies by using experimental studies. So the researcher attempts to determine or predict what may occur. In this case, you know that this much compound if you're using and this much compound is being left, so you are aware what kind of results will come out from that. So that is how experimental researches or say studies are done with. The classic experimental design specifies an experimental group and a control group. As I said, control group is the term that is used in experimental studies a lot. Subsequent experimental designs have used more groups and more measurements over a longer period, and true experiments must have a control, randomization, and manipulation. So this is done in experimental studies that again in social science research we are mostly devoid with. So what do this experimental studies tell us or tell you? So experimental research allows the researcher to control the situation, and it always answers the question, what causes something to occur. So we are answering, or say why that situation occurred, or say we are analyzing the cause and effect of the situation. So I won't go into the text because I think we'll be able to share this PPT. So you can go ahead with this. Uh, so what the studies don't tell you now. Again, experimental design is artificial, let me tell you. And results may not generalize well to the real world. As I said, in social science research, we do not use experimental research much. The artificial settings of experiments may alter the behavior or responses of participants. Experimental designs can be costly if special equipment or facilities are needed. Okay. And some research problems cannot be studied using an experiment because of ethical or technical reasons. So suppose say you are trying to, research on this particular moisturizer that you may apply during the night. And due to ethical or technical reasons, if you're trying to, find out the compounds, say the compounds that is being obtained from plants or say animal sources, sometimes due to ethical or technical reasons, you'll not be able to, get a hands on them. So again, so this is the problem when we talk about experimental research. The tools cannot be used properly, or say the data cannot be collected in a proper manner. So, and it is difficult to apply in qualitative methods to experimentally design studies. Now, I hope in the earlier moderators have already explained to you the topic, or say the area of qualitative and quantitative method. So quantitative method basically deals with numbers, and qualitative or open-ended question. My perception, my thinking about a thing is the qualitative attitude that I have, towards the research. Diagnostic studies. Now, the researcher must be able to define clearly what he wants to measure. So, whenever I'm, defining something very clearly, this is what I need and this is what I want to measure, and I am going to use an adequate method to, particular, solve this problem. This is a, okay. I think the meeting will end in 10 minutes. Uh, but this is a problem I would like to suggest to the moderator, because I lose the flow when we are talking about a particular topic. We are getting this message. I don't know how we are we going to join through the same link, Shweta? I don't know if the moderator can hear me. Uh, yes. Hello. I don't know if anybody can hear me. Let us continue. When the meeting will stop, I think the moderator will issue the direction. So anyway, if I am, trying to define something clearly, or I want to measure something clearly, or when I'm having a clear-cut population of my study. So in that case, I can use diagnostic studies. Now, the process or methods of diagnostic research studies, I have to formulate the objective of the study, I have to design the methods of data collection, selecting the sample, collection of the data, processing and analyzing the data, report the findings. The entire process, the entire process again is in diagnostic research studies, and this entire process again constitutes a research design, because if you see all the steps, it is there. Formulating the research problem is not here, but then if we add that, this is again a research design which suits the diagnostic research studies. So uses of diagnostic research, it plays a vital role in research design and gives a clear and exact view of the area of the study. So when you know everything correctly, so you can give a totally exact view of that area of study, or say the area of existence mostly, because diagnostic research is again very important to come out with possible solutions. This was all about research design. Uh, if you have any questions, or anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer, because after this session, I'll be going with your tools of data collection. So anybody would want to ask anything? Are my participants mostly sleeping? Because research is